Welcome to the CompTIA Network Plus N10 008 June 2024 pop quiz. So here are three objectives I'll give you related to this pop quiz. Let's read them. So 1.1, compare and contrast the open systems interconnection or OSI model layers and encapsulation concepts. You'll have to do that a lot on the exam, so we'll get some practice. K1.3, summarize the types of cables and connectors and explain which is the appropriate type for a solution. So there's so many different types of cables and connections and different tools and ways to troubleshoot them. We'll get some practice with that. K4.3, explain common security concepts using network authentication. So authentication is very important too. There's so many different ways you can authenticate through a network, and so security is quite important too. So you'll need to know multiple ways that's done through different protocols. Okay, let's get started. So question number 1. At which layer of the OSI model does error detection using a frame check sequence occur? So if any of you remember my chapter 1 video that I made on YouTube, it talks about headers and tailors and how they get stripped and redirected and going through switches. So headers and trailers of frames get changed all the time as they forward through switches. As you can see in this visual picture right here, you can see these little colors. Just imagine that is what the packet looks like as it gets forwarded to the next switch. So which of the layers is that? Do you know? Okay, let's look at the answer. That happens at the data link layer. So there's not a whole lot for you to troubleshoot at the physical layer other than, well, if the cables are working or not, and if the NIC or the light is working or not on the switch or the interface card or whatever you're using. So a little bit beyond that is the data link. Still, it's quite primitive. We use MAC addresses to forward our packets around, and that happens at the data link layer. We don't even get into IP addresses or different network protocols just yet. Okay, next question. Network engineer Daman needs to troubleshoot at a remote corporate facility across the WAN. Which of the following user authentications provide the best security solution? I really like this question. I found it to be a little bit challenging because a lot of these have to deal with authentication, but which one is the best solution? So can you think of why you should use a certain protocol or technology over another, and what is the weakness or strength of each of these? So let's think for a second and let's look at the answer. Okay, so the correct answer is TACAS Plus. And why is that? Well, TACAS Plus uses the AAA, or we also call it authentication, authorization, and accounting. So it has all three features when you authenticate on your AAA server over here. So it has those features. It's ideal for remote connections, and it's the most secure. Let's talk about the other available answers here. Kerberos. So if you work in a Windows environment, Kerberos allows authentication to happen maybe around on workstations through Active Directory or Azure. It uses a timestamp system to authenticate, but sometimes it lacks integrity and those timestamps can be manipulated, so it's not quite the most secure thing. It's also not as good because TACAS can be run over Kerberos to make it more secure. Okay, PKI uses certificates from a third party, and generally that is a good method, but it could be an expired certificate or a manipulated certificate or a spoof certificate, so that is a weakness that PKI has. And then MSChap also allows authentication, but is just not the best choice. It's older technology, and TACAS Plus can be run over MSChap if you need to. So it's still the winner of these four by a long shot. Okay, next question. Okay, and our last question will be related to cabling and wiring and infrastructure and how to resolve problems with them. Okay, here's the question. What can a technician use to identify punch block terminations if the wiring diagram has been misplaced? So if these wires are not set up correctly, how can you verify that? Okay, a time domain reflector, which is a tool we use to troubleshoot cables. B, a protocol analyzer. C, an optical time domain reflector, or D, a toner probe. Okay, to verify integrity of cables and signals, we would use a toner probe. So if there is an issue with it being misplaced or it's not on the block or it's not working, then your toner probe would let you know immediately if it's getting a signal or not. Thank you for watching.